Attention Philadelphia Eagles fans, because a quiet move made far away from the spotlight may say far more about the future of this defense than any press conference ever could. This is not a trade, not a contract signing, and not an official announcement. But it is exactly this kind of discreet meeting that usually reveals where the franchise truly believes the problem is and where it plans to strike first. Because when a team like the Eagles starts moving behind the scenes, especially at closed events, away from the general public, it is usually not out of curiosity. It is about necessity. It is about planning. And many times, it is about urgency. Something changed. Something bothered them. And someone inside the NovaCare complex decided that certain decisions could no longer be pushed down the road. Over the past few months, the feeling among more attentive fans has been clear. The defense lost its identity. It lost its aggressiveness. It lost that constant presence that used to make opposing quarterbacks uncomfortable from the first snap to the last. And when a franchise historically built on defensive line pressure starts to miss that, the alarm is not small. It is loud, and it echoes throughout the front office. And that is where the information now starting to circulate comes in. During the Senior Bowl, a traditional event that brings together NFL coaches, executives, and scouts with some of the top college talents in the country, the Eagles met with a specific edge rusher, a player who may not yet be a household name among casual fans, but who clearly caught the attention of those making decisions in Philadelphia. His name is Romelo, a defender from Texas Tech. Romelo is not just another name on a long list of prospects. He enters this pre-draft process with a credential that always makes NFL executives stop and pay closer attention. In his final college season, he recorded 10 sacks, 10 times getting to the quarterback, 10 plays that kill drives, flip field position, and often change entire games. When that kind of production shows up on tape, nobody ignores it. But what matters most here is not just the number, it is the context. The Eagles were not simply watching from afar. They sat down with Romelo. They talked, they evaluated, they asked questions, and that detail completely changes how this story should be read. Because meetings at the Senior Bowl are not handed out randomly. Time is the most valuable resource at that event. And when a team chooses to spend that time with a specific player, there is always a very clear reason behind it. To understand the weight of that meeting, you have to step back and look at the current state of the Eagles' defense. Throughout last season, pressure on the quarterback was simply not consistent. There were flashes, there were isolated good moments, but that constant feeling that the pocket could collapse at any second, that disappeared in many games. And for a team that built its greatest recent success on that very identity, it almost feels like an identity crisis. Important departures happened. Veteran pieces got older. Others did not develop as expected. And little by little, the pass rush rotation stopped being deep, reliable, and dominant. The consequences showed up clearly in decisive moments. Fourth quarters, where opposing quarterbacks had too much time. Long third downs converted far too easily. Drives that should never have continued. That is exactly where Romelo's name starts to make sense within the bigger picture. He does not arrive as a miracle solution, but he represents something the group is missing right now. Youth, explosion, hunger. A player who is still on the way up, not someone trying to hang on to what remains of his prime. For a team that needs to rebuild its defensive identity, that profile is extremely appealing. And the Senior Bowl is the perfect stage for this kind of evaluation, because there, players are taken out of their college systems and placed into new situations, new coaches, new schemes, new teammates. It is there that front offices can see how a player reacts outside of his comfort zone, how he learns, how he communicates, how he absorbs coaching, and all of that matters just as much as the tape. There is also a detail that often goes unnoticed when talking about these meetings. For a front office, especially one like the Eagles, these early conversations are also about mapping future scenarios. It is not just about whether to draft a player or not. It is about understanding whether that athlete fits the locker room culture, whether he is willing to start in a rotation, whether he understands that development in the NFL is a process, not a shortcut. Philadelphia has suffered in the past with talented players who arrived believing they were ready too fast, too soon. That is why, when the franchise sits down with a prospect like Romelo, it is evaluating something much deeper than explosion or sack totals. It is evaluating maturity, adaptability, and a willingness to learn from veterans. For a team trying to rebuild its defensive identity without sacrificing immediate competitiveness, that evaluation can be the difference between getting it right and repeating mistakes fans know all too well. Romelo Height, specifically, stood out not only because of his production, but because of his style of play. An edge rusher who understands angles, who does not rely solely on brute strength, who knows how to use his hands, who knows when to accelerate at the right moment. That matters a great deal when talking about the transition to the NFL, where the athletic level is brutal and the margin for error is minimal. For the Eagles, this meeting also reveals something about philosophy. It shows a team willing to look beyond the most hyped names, willing to find value, willing to anticipate moves, willing to develop someone within the system instead of paying a premium for past production on the veteran market. It is a strategy that has worked in Philadelphia before, and the front office knows it. From the fan perspective, this news brings mixed emotions. There is excitement, of course. Every fan wants to hear that the team is looking for ways to pressure the quarterback again. But there is also caution. How many times have we seen promising prospects fail to translate that potential to the professional level? How many bets have gone wrong? That fear is natural, especially for those who have followed the franchise for decades. But it is also important to remember that no great defense is built without taking chances like this, without development, without patience. And maybe, just maybe, the Eagles have identified something in Romelo Height that does not show up in the stat sheet. Something that shows up in how he works, how he speaks, how he studies, and how he competes. Because meetings at the Senior Bowl are not about numbers. They are about projection. And that brings us to the future. If Philadelphia truly decides to invest in an edge rusher like Height in the draft, it signals a clear direction. It signals that defensive priority returns to pressuring the quarterback with 4 rushers without relying heavily on blitzing. It returns to controlling games from the defensive line. It returns to dictating the tempo instead of reacting to it. The big question is how this fits into the bigger picture. There are other needs on the roster: linebackers, the secondary, offensive depth. The draft is always a game of choices and sacrifices, and every meeting like this tells a story about what the team believes is most urgent. And that is exactly where the question that truly divides opinions and deserves real debate comes in. Are the Eagles right to once again make pass rush the central pillar of the defense, even knowing that other areas of the roster also demand immediate attention? If you enjoyed this analysis, leave a comment with what you would do. Like the video and subscribe to the channel, because that helps this content reach more fans, strengthens our community, and keeps this conversation alive among people who truly understand what it means to be an Eagles fan.